We're going to talk today about some of the practical things to be thinking about as you prepare for death. The reality is that we don't know our expiration date, and none of us is getting out of here alive. And some of you that know me know that my family experienced an unexpected tragedy at year-end when my sister-in-law, Margaret, is unexpectedly passed away at the age of 56. And so that really does shed light on the fact that we just, we don't know. And it's important to take a moment and to really kind of think about, am I really organized in ways that are going to help those people that are left behind? Now, the good news is Marley, my sister-in-law, was talking to me over the years. And so she had made some plans. And so things are relatively straightforward. But if you've ever been involved with being an executor or a trustee or whatever the case may be, it is a difficult and tricky job. And so there's always things that pop up that make that difficult, even in situations where there was planning to have occurred. And then combined with the fact that you're trying to kind of get together the financial, practical stuff, and then, of course, there's the emotional side when you lose a loved one, particularly unexpected at a, in theory, younger age than the average life expectancy. So we wanted to spend some time on the program kind of going over some of those practical things to be thinking about. And it's certainly imperative to think about those sooner rather than later because we just don't know. Anyway, my name, of course, is Joel Garris, certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary at Nelson Financial Planning. Program, of course, is Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars. Be sure to join us on any of our social media podcasts, YouTube channels. Just go to our website, Nelson Financial Planning. And if you have any trouble finding us, the icons in the upper right-hand corner will immediately connect you over to our particular channel on that platform. So we all know that we're not going to get out of here alive. And at the end of the day, there's certainly some practical things to be thinking about. And we understand it's a difficult conversation. And it's a difficult time after someone passes as well. So it's important, though, to be thinking about some of the practical things that you can certainly do to sort of get the house in order to really help reduce down what is a very stressful time for folks anyway. And then, of course, there's always family dynamics. Every family has one and or has them. And so you want to try and reduce the possibility of conflict as much as possible. So fundamentally, it starts with a review of your current estate planning documents, or in the alternative, you don't have anything to review. That means you don't have any, so you probably at least need to start there. Get a baseline amount, get a baseline plan, at least put on paper, signed, executed, notarized, things like that. In today's world, there's a bunch of websites that are out there that will allow you to log in at any time, put in your general information, and ultimately have some documents that are going to get created that at least will cover you if you don't have anything in place. But some of the things to be thinking about as you think about those estate planning documents is, and this is something that we often see getting overlooked, is you really want to make sure that you are looking at your beneficiaries that you've named on various accounts, because that then becomes what is going to happen to that particular account at that point in time. See, what people forget is that if I name a beneficiary on a particular account, then that named beneficiary is who is going to get that account, regardless of the situation involving what the will or the trust might say. So it's so important that you take and make sure and confirm that the beneficiaries are on everything from life insurance to your bank account to your IRA to your 401k to your house, any of that, you can easily put a beneficiary on. Now, again, that's just a practical tip. Do you want to necessarily name people outright as your beneficiaries? A lot of cases, that's perfectly fine. In other cases, though, you may want to put some restrictions on it. That's where a trust comes into play. The more you want to kind of put some restrictions on what's going to happen after you pass, then the more you want to have a full legal document, generally thought of that's the function of a trust, that ultimately you use to help produce the game plan for how that money is going to get distributed after you pass. So, but it starts with a review of the beneficiaries and making sure that everything, and I'll tell you, the number one thing that people miss is their bank account. They just forget to do it. Maybe it's a little bit more cumbersome to do it with the bank because you actually have to go in and go on site, but that's the number one thing that people miss. So make sure the bank accounts have that beneficiary designation on it in order to avoid probate. Next is you got to think about the tax laws, right? I mean, that's got to be on your mind no matter what, whether you're living and you pay taxes. Well, when you die, I'm probably going to pay taxes as well, particularly your beneficiaries if they're inheriting retirement accounts or anything like that. So is there a way in which the tax laws have changed that would adversely impact you in particular? We've certainly talked about this in previous shows where the elimination of the stretch IRA is probably the single biggest change that has happened in terms of taxes and inheriting. Next up, you would say, okay, well, have I named the right decision makers? Have I named the folks that are going to serve in a fiduciary capacity, in a trustee capacity, or an executive capacity? Are those the right people for the job based upon where I am? So it's important to kind of really be thinking about the decision makers that are going to occur, that are going to be around making those decisions along the way. And then, here in Florida, welcome to Florida, right? A lot of people moving in. And so it's important to also just kind of make sure that what you have, maybe something you did in a different state, is still valid here in Florida, because the laws can vary from state to state. So that's certainly something that you want to check out. Another thing, and this is important, and we've seen it. Some people do it, and some people do it really usually pretty good. Oftentimes it's like engineers and accountants and stuff that like assemble this stuff really well. But this piece is something that anybody can do. It just requires you to sit down and do it. And so we like to think of it as assembling sort of a to-go list, if you will, or a fact book of important information that you can leave behind, that you can direct someone to say, hey, if you go here, you will find a binder. In that binder, you will find everything that you need. People to call, the accounts, the account numbers, who to call for the particular accounts, all of that. For example, my dad has shared with me exactly where that binder is in his house. So I know if anything happens to him, look for the binder, if you will. But it amazes me how few people actually take that step. So what should be in that binder? Well, it's important to provide the names and the contact information for the players that are in the game, right? Because whether that's your tax preparer, your financial advisor, your attorney, your accountant, your banker, your insurance agent, all of that needs to be in that book. Who's your pastor? Who's your funeral director? All of those kinds of things with their names and contact information. Good to assemble that all in one location. So that fact book is pretty important in terms of listing in one location the folks that you need to contact when something happens. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that needs to be in that fact book as well. And we're going to share that when we return after the break here on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning.